Hi, good evening and happy new week. Welcome to another beautiful week in the month of July 2023. And welcome to The Law of the People and Governance here on Spectrum Television, a program that talks about political issues that are trending here in Nigeria. And of course, this is a program that explains government policies to the people, allows the people to know what is happening within the circles of the government, and of course the new plans the government has for the people, and of course allows feedback from the people back to the government. This program runs during weekdays, and of course we exist to explain better government policies to you here on Spectrum Television. My name is Rachel David White. And today we'll take a look at three reports as usual. The first report we'll be looking at is the screening that has already begun at the service chiefs that were appointed by the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Screening has already begun rather. And of course, those were the expectations of the President from the Senate. Well, the House of Representatives has commenced the screening of the just four new major service chiefs appointed by President Bola Tinubu. And the screening committee is led by the majority leader of the House, that's Julius Ihonvbere. And the service chiefs include Major General Christopher Musa, Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Tari Lagwaja, Chief of Army Staff. Also have Rear Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, who is the Chief of Naval Staff, and AVM Hassan Abubakar, Chief of Air Staff. The chairman of the ad hoc committee of the House, Baba Jimmy Benson, said members of the armed forces must adhere strictly to the provisions of the Appropriation Act. And also he said further that the performances of the service chiefs would be reviewed by the National Assembly if they are confirmed along the line. So those are some of the issues. The sessions followed the screening and confirmation of the appointments service chiefs on Thursday. And don't forget that on June 19, 2023, 3 weeks after the inauguration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu removed all service chiefs in Nigeria and appointed new ones, whom he directed to resume with immediate effect. So those affected in the shake-up included Alkali Usman, who was removed as the Inspector General of Police (IGP), Lucky Rabor, who was removed as the Chief of Defense Staff, Farouk Yahaya, retired as the Chief of Army Staff, Awal Gambo, removed as the Chief of Naval Staff, and Ishaka Amal, retired as Chief of Air Staff. And the President subsequently appointed the new service chiefs, named a former chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Nuhu Ribadu, as his new national security advisor. That's the NSA. So those were part of the development. And already the President had written to the Senate, even as of last week, asking them to begin the screening on confirmation of the service chiefs. And then they replied that they have to be screened accordingly when the House is complete before they could be confirmed. Away from that, the next report, we're going into the APC internal crisis that is ongoing. And of course, this is one of the issues that have been unfolding every day. Different things have been happening in APC internal crisis. Well, the APC National Working Committee, that's the All Progressives Congress, has announced the indefinite postponement of the National Caucus of the National Executive Committee NEC meetings. One report says the decision comes in the wake of the resignation of Senator Abdullahi Adamu and Iola Omishere as the party's national chairman and secretary, respectively. Initially scheduled for July 10th and 11th, the meetings were rescheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday, respectively. And so the NWC, that's the National Working Committee, has now deemed it necessary to postpone the gatherings until further notice. Already I told you that there has been some issues addressing the press after the emergency, the NWC meeting, Senator Abubakar Kyari, which is now the acting national chairman of the APC, confirmed that particular development. Let's just talk a little about the APC crisis. I mean, all of a sudden, there has been a series of issues before now. There has been an ever since, I would say, the appointment of some persons in the Senate as the majority leader and the minority leaders as well. Well, there had been some issues where the former chairman of the party, Adamu, came out to, you know, debunk, or to, I wouldn't use the word debunk, to say he is disassociating himself from the persons who were announced. According to him, the party had not completed or was not part of, you know, generating the list of persons that were announced. So that stirred a whole lot of issue already in the party internally. And just as the things kept unfolding, there had been some reports that the former chair right now, who has just resigned, Adamu, may resign. And just when there were arguments that it may not happen, well, there has been confirmation that he has tendered his resignation since Sunday night. There had been some speculations. And during the NWC meeting today, Iola Mishere stormed out of the meeting that was ongoing and decided to walk out on the National Working Committee members himself, and of course tendered his resignation as well. So that's the secretary and the chairman resigning in the same time, or at the same time rather, which has already made the likes of Abubakar Kyari to become the acting chairman of the APC. Well, I think we should just take another day to look deeply into the APC crisis, because I think there is more to that than what we are seeing. Away from that, we'll take a look at another report that we'll be discussing for today that has sparked widespread anger from Nigerians and different criticisms, talking about the proposed or alleged proposed 70 billion naira for lawmakers as palliatives. So that's what we'll take a look at when we come back from the short break. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, we discuss better. Just stay tuned.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
All right, welcome once again. This is the Law of the People and Governance here on Spectrum Television. And right about now, we are about to talk about the next report. Today, we'll be looking at broadly the Nigerian Senate is facing widespread anger and criticism following its defense of a proposed 70 billion naira palliative package for lawmakers. Well, the announcement of the palliative, which is intended to cushion the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on lawmakers, has sparked public outrage and accusations of insensitivity. Many Nigerians have expressed their frustration with the Senate's decision, arguing that such a large sum of money should be directed towards more pressing issues such as healthcare, education, and infrastructural development. While some critics argue that the proposed palliative reflects a lack of empathy and disconnect between lawmakers and the struggles faced by ordinary citizens. Well, the Senate's defense of the palliative has only fueled public anger further. Lawmakers have claimed that the fund is necessary to enable them to carry out their duties effectively and to meet the expectations of their constituents as well. They argue that the financial burden of political office often falls heavily on the lawmakers, and the palliative is designed to alleviate that particular burden. These justifications have been met with skepticism and disbelief from the public as well. Well, many Nigerians are of another opinion entirely. Some people are asking questions as to why such a huge amount of money, directed towards funding the judiciary, of course, cushioning the effect of COVID-19, and of course, fuel subsidy removal and all of that from them. Meanwhile, a whole lot of Nigerians are facing hard times. So if that is directed to cushion the hard sufferings of the lawmakers, what then happens to the common Nigerians? There's so many questions, so many widespread anger, so many criticisms as to why the of course Senate should propose or defend such a huge proposal of the money. And of course, the controversy surrounding the 70 billion naira palliative has sparked calls for greater transparency and accountability in governance. Critics have also argued that public funds should be allocated in a manner that prioritizes the needs and well-being of general population rather than benefiting a few or selected few rather. Public outcry continues. Pressure is mounting on the Senate to reconsider its decision and redirect the proposed funds towards initiatives that will have a more positive, widespread impact on the lives of Nigerians. These are the issues currently on ground. Now, remember that before now, the Senate had said, okay, the president had proposed 8,000 naira monthly as palliative for Nigerians. So if you want to calculate 8,000 naira monthly for the most vulnerable Nigerians, you'd want to ask, how much is it going to be a day, right? If it's being shared in a day, in a month, okay, let's say 31 or 30 days, and you decide to share 8,000 naira per day, how much are we talking about? And here they are proposing 70 billion naira as palliative for lawmakers. I think there has some reports that says that the 70 billion naira is not for the lawmakers to consume. It's for housekeeping, to get furnitures, to do a whole lot of things for them. Away from that, we've also seen reports of 40 billion naira that is proposed to get them bulletproof cars, and of course cars, especially 40 billion naira. Okay, and then there's so many reactions that people are saying different things. People have different opinions, saying such amount of money is too much to go into the judiciary alone. Instead, it should be shared into other things. It should be taken to other sectors of the economy, the education, the healthcare, and not just pumped such amount of money into the judiciary alone. So there have been a whole lot of reactions from different people as to the amount of money that the government is about to share to the lawmakers. Of course, one of the veteran activists, and a public affairs commentator, Nze Ezeocha, came out to decry the sharp contrast between palliatives rolled out by the Tinubu administration for lawmakers and that of ordinary Nigerians. Recall that Thursday, July 13th, a report, was everywhere on social media and even on other media platforms. It indicated that the whooping sum of 70 billion naira was being earmarked as palliatives for lawmakers at the National Assembly to help in cushioning the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy. And the report came on the heels of the announcement made by Tinubu administration that it would soon commence a cash transfer program of 8,000 naira to 12 million Nigerian households for the next 6 months. So, reacting to this report, during a televised interview, Ezeocha, who is actually a very prominent activist here in Nigeria, argued that the lump sum approved for the lawmakers is quite huge when compared to the monthly stipend earmarked for average Nigerians, especially when it is broken down to a daily amount. He said for the past 2 weeks, Nigerians have been calling on President Tinubu to roll out palliatives. Now that palliatives have arrived, the question is the palliatives Nigerians were asking for? Or is it the palliatives Nigerians were asking for? It says because it is still favoring the rich and continues to multiply the pains of the poor. It says when he saw the news that the House of Assembly will get a whooping 70 billion naira and 12 million households to get 53 naira a day, he says, is that what we call a palliative? He says, I don't think so. Well, there have been different reactions. For some people, see it as insensitivity, being insensitive to the needs of Nigeria. And of course, another person says it is insensitive for Tinubu to give 200 million rather each to lawmakers who already earn 13 million monthly. As the proposed palliative recently announced by the Tinubu administrations continue to occupy the front burner of course, public discussions, and we've talked about this. Another analyst, Lemi Ugebe, has come out to lament the huge sums of money that has been earmarked by the president for members of the 10th. Not for that. That's a different thing for members of the 10th Assembly. I think the way the country earmarks billions of naira for, I would say, different people in the political circle, and then a little sum is being earmarked for the whole citizens. Okay, let's not say the whole citizens. There's no how you can get to everybody, but the most vulnerable, 12 million homes, poor homes in Nigeria, to get 8,000 naira daily. What is your reaction to this? Do you think this is insensitivity, an act of insensitivity like so many people have come out to say? Or do you think this is cool? Away from that, I already talked about reports that there is supposed to be 40 billion naira that is supposed to get them luxury SUV cars, for them to, of course, form a convoy. And of course, away from that, there has also been reports that the Senate is coming out to say the money is not meant for the lawmakers to, of course, put into their pockets. It's meant to buy them furnitures. Let's say it's meant to buy them furnitures. 70 billion naira meant to buy furnitures, and of course, keep the offices or refurbish the offices of lawmakers. Do you think that this is, I would say, I don't want to use money misroad. I think is the right amount of money being given to the wrong, being given the wrong attention, or being proposed for the wrong things in Nigeria. So recently, during, I would say, the Tinubu-led administration has been earmarking a whopping sum of money for different sectors and different circles of power holders, and then talking about the needs of the people. Something small comes. 800,000 or 88,000 naira monthly for 12 million Nigerian homes for 6 weeks, to me looks like it's not just enough. And then before the Senate had approved it, there were calls for the president to re-look into this amount of money that is supposed to be shared to vulnerable homes again. And then at the end of the day, the Senate was quick to approve that amount to be spent on 12 million Nigerian homes, vulnerable Nigerian homes. And here we have over 70 billion naira being earmarked for lawmakers. And there were also reports last week that 110 million naira also was being earmarked for senates as palliative for Senate as well. So there are so many reactions. Let's also get your reactions as to what you feel about this. Let's get to your reactions. The phone number will be displayed on the TV screen, so feel free to call us, send us a text message or a WhatsApp message. Meanwhile, we'll go on a short break. When we come right back, we're still talking about the issue, so do stay tuned.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Nigerian police, which is the only one.
All right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, then this is the Law of the People and Governance here on Spectrum Television. And feel free to join the conversation. The phone number is displayed on the TV screen. We're taking a look at, of course, the 70 billion naira that has been proposed as palliative for lawmakers. And of course, even the Senate has theirs as well. And of course, just last week, we had reports of a large 110 billion naira that's proposed or earmarked for them to get themselves bulletproof cars, of course, to form a convoy. And also the NLC protests some time ago, Tinubu's 500 billion naira subsidy palliative demands, and of course measures to cushion the effect on most vulnerable Nigerians, which gives them 8,000 naira in a month. And of course, NLC had demanded 300% pay rise. Don't forget that before now they had demanded for 200% pay rise. While the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress had thumped down the 500 billion naira palliative proposed by President Bola Tinubu, and stating that it is grossly inadequate to assuage the hardships confronting workers sequel to the fuel subsidy removal, and they are demanding a 300% salary increase to enable workers to cope with the challenges imposed by the deteriorating economic situation that came from the removal of the controversial fuel subsidy. On Wednesday last week, the president wrote to the House of Representatives seeking approval for 500 billion naira to cushion the effect of petrol subsidy removal. Well, Tinubu's request was contained in a letter sent to the National Assembly and read during plenary at the speaker or by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, and the president had announced the petrol subsidy removal during his inauguration on 29th May 2023, and of course in response to claims that the subsidy regime favored the rich and it was bringing untold hardships to the poor, among other reasons. In his letter, the president proposed an amendment to the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act, and it read, I write to the House of Reps to approve the amendment of 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act in accordance with the attached. The request has become necessarily important to, among other things, the source for funds necessary to provide palliative to mitigate the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy on Nigerians. It says, thus, the sum of 500 billion naira only has been extracted. I know it's good to add only, to every amount of money, but this only here, I think it suits this amount of money to cushion effect of hardship on Nigerians more than any other thing. And it says extracted from the 2022 Supplementary Act of for the provision rather of palliative to cushion the effect of petrol subsidy removal. And it says the president said hoped that the lawmakers would consider his request expeditiously. Well, the House is expected to uphold a plenary, was expected rather to uphold a plenary on the president's request last December. And of course, that was when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was in office. And of course, the National Assembly passed a supplementary budget of 819 billion naira some time ago. And of course, in May, the National Assembly had passed the amendment to the 2022 supplementary budget to extend the implementation of the capital components of course, the issue to December 2023. But unimpressed by amount contained in the president's letter, 500 billion naira, the NLC noted that the money would not be enough to cater for 125 million Nigerians who are believed to be living in poverty. So let's check 500 billion naira for 125 million poor Nigerians. Well, the National Treasurer of the NLC, Hakeem Ambali, who spoke in an interview with newsmen, questioned the extent to which the palliative would cover. And when asked if the amount would be sufficient, he said definitely not. We have over 125 Nigerians that are taking on the ways by which the president can mitigate the effect of subsidy removal. The NLC official asked for minimum wage review of 300% to all workers, granting licenses to individuals for modular refineries to refine petrol locally, granting economic stimulus loan to SMEs at 15% rate. He also said the government should provide social benefits for aged and unemployed youths, agric loans to farmers and youths through the agric bank and community banks at single-digit rates, provide alternative energy supply such as massive investment in solar power and compressed natural gas to motorists, fix the refineries, reverse the privatization of electricity back to the state due to poor performance, and of course execute metro rail line projects in all state capitals, and reduction of school fees for students of tertiary institutions as well. Well, the Director General of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, Olushola Obadimo, had welcomed the idea of the palliatives for the poor, but he in turn also questioned how the 500 billion naira for the palliative measures would be spent. So this is talking about the money for the poor Nigerians right now that will amount to 8,000 naira monthly. And according to, of course, the Agric Bank executive manager, says the chamber will refrain from making further comments on the matter until clarification is given on how fund will be utilized. He said the idea is principle, it's good. Of course the idea is good. He says people expect some relief. It is in the statement that they issued that they said it clearly that palliatives would be a good idea. Of course everybody had argued that palliative would be a good idea, but talking about a specific figure is something, according to him, they can't do when they don't know the scope. And the concept is fine, but they need more information about the scope. And on his part, the Deputy President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Gabriel Idahosa, while commending the move, also said the fund would be insufficient to cushion the impact of the subsidy removal and the devaluation of the naira. He further stated that the media and other interest groups must sustain the advocacy to ensure that the palliative measures are extended to the public and private sectors. Idahosa said whatever the president implements will not be sufficient to wipe out the impact of the two policies, subsidy removal and floating of the currency. So it is going to be a partial effort to reduce, not eliminate, the effect of those policies. He said there is a basis to complain if the details come out, and they have to wait and see how the first set of palliatives will be designed. Then they can complain legitimately if the private sector is not involved. And the president of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, it should be extended rather to those who really needed it. He says the clarity is that all Nigerians are saying they must have palliatives for the people affected. So if they're asking for palliative for the president, rather, and if they're asking for palliative for the Nigerians rather, and the president cannot spend 1 hour without subsidy removal, and the palliative means that government must address the shock of the people. He says you cannot spend without approval, and you also know that we are in deficit before. So which other way can you get the money if not to borrow? So he is following what the procedure says is legal. He says we support palliatives, but it should go to the ultimate consumer and not to those who sit in one place and are spending money. Identify the people that were affected in the most and give them the palliatives. Also, in a related development, the president last week assured Nigerians that the framework for palliatives to remedy the effect of failed subsidy removal is being worked out. And of course, explaining that the decision to phase out the subsidy was taken in the best interest of members of Class 1999 governors who paid him a courtesy visit at the presidential villa. There were 18 of the former governors who were present at the council chambers where the president met with them, and former Lagos State Governor. Of course, the president is a former Lagos State Governor and a secretary. She's been a secretary to the state government of the Federation. And of course, that talking about George Akume, who was the former Benue State Governor and also belonged to the class of 1999 governors as well. He appreciated his colleague who served and, of course, talked about speed up the process. Well, the question right now is, the government is ready to alleviate the problems, the pains of the people by, of course, bringing out palliatives as one of the measures to cushion the effect. Recall that when the president had announced removal of fuel subsidy, there were widespread reactions, and one of those were, even from us here, that the president did not keep would I say palliatives on ground. Let me use palliatives on ground to cushion the effect of the petrol and becoming more poorer at this time. So there had been widespread reactions, and of course the president, as a human being, I would say, decided to come up with a measure to cushion the effect of the fuel subsidy by giving out palliative to poor and vulnerable Nigerians to the tune the money that has been earmarked for the Senate to get themselves cars. I mean, there are reactions that the Senate should not bother getting themselves cars, rather they should think about how to, of course, get few electronic cars, and of course forget about keeping. Had earmarked 70 billion naira, which we are also looking at to cushion the effect of the hardship, both the COVID-19 hardship, the effect of the fuel subsidy removal, the floating of the naira on the lawmakers as well. So some of 70 billion naira was being earmarked for them, and of course to cushion that effect. Well, there had been widespread anger, criticism, and reactions coming from different people in the society saying this amount of money is too much to give to these people. Meanwhile, the money you have earmarked for Nigerians is just 500 billion naira. So this is one of the issues that we are discussing on the program today. Talking about this same issue, okay, there had been some reactions from the Senate, which we'll also look at today, concerning I would say all the amount of money, or should I say one office or the other. There has been for the Senate, there has been for lawmakers as well. And Femi Falana, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria, of course, that also had his own reaction to this, of course, alleged 70 billion naira that has been earmarked as palliative for lawmakers. And it says, told you that there have also been money earmarked for the Senate as well as palliatives. It says is colors and insensitives. He said the National Assembly also earmarked 40 billion naira to purchase 465 sport utility vehicles, that's the SUVs, and bulletproof cars for principal officers and of course members of their own cabinet as well. And President Bola Tinubu had asked the lawmakers to amend the 819 billion naira Supplementary Appropriation Act, which I talked about, and extract 500 billion naira to allow the federal government to provide palliatives to cushion the effect of petrol subsidy removal. 1 billion naira was appropriated to the National Assembly to support the working conditions of new members. While the most talked about 500 billion naira was earmarked for palliatives and other capital expenditures. While reacting to the development, Falana said the National Assembly acted with impunity, and also he says the legislature does not have the right to authorize its own allowances without the approval of the Revenue Allocation Mobilization and Fiscal Commission, RMAFC. So it says, as if that is not enough, the members of the National Assembly have earmarked 40 billion to purchase 465 sport utility vehicles and bulletproof cars for principal officials and members. So the legislature has approved the sum of 500 billion for 12 million indigent people in the country, where the National Bureau of Statistics had said that 62.9% of people, that's 133 million, are living in multi-dimensional poverty. Falana said that of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 1999 as amended, it says it is crystal clear that by approving allowances in the form of palliatives for themselves without the approval of the Revenue Allocation Mobilization and Fiscal Commission, the members of society which claims to operate under the rule of law, says we are compelled to call on the leaders and members of the National Assembly to reverse the scandalous palliatives and purchase of exotic vehicles. However, if the illegal decisions are not reversed, we call on the Revenue Allocation Mobilization and Fiscal Commission to take urgent steps to prevent the National Assembly from further usurping its constitutional functions. Otherwise, we are going to commence contempt proceedings against the Assembly. Well, but the statement on Sunday, the Senate said the 70 billion naira budgeted to support their working conditions is for purchase of furniture and carrying out repairs in lawmakers' offices. That still boils down to what I'm saying. The question, take away the power for the lawmakers to be the ones to propose palliatives for themselves and give it to another body entirely. Because, for example, it's like saying, oh, go dish your own food. I would definitely want to dish my own food to make sure that this food satisfies me and I have everything I want to eat from the food is there. Just go dish your own. It's a buffet. Go dish whatever you want to eat. So I would definitely make sure my plate is garnished, filled, before I think about another person. So that is what we are seeing here. The lawmakers proposing 70 billion naira. Even if it's not as palliative, I think if they even agree that it's for palliative, it would be better than saying it's for repairs, upkeep, buying furniture, repairing the lawmaker's office. And of course, 40 billion naira is to get bulletproof cars, space utility vans, and all of that. Now the question is, why should bigwigs need such a huge amount of money to get bulletproof cars? Why isn't that amount of money, even part of it, be used to tackle the issue of insecurity so that they will go around without needing bulletproof cars, instead of using that amount of money to buy bulletproof cars? Well, for a proposal that has called for widespread condemnation, criticism, anger, I think the president should step in and, of course, ask them to look at what they have on their table again. And even the RAMFC should also step into the proposed palliative measure or amount of money, 70 billion naira, and of course the 40, which is included in the 70 billion to sort out bulletproof cars and other space utility vans. And of course, step into and maybe be the judge. Like I said, you can't ask them to dish out food for themselves. They will definitely make sure that they satisfy themselves, eat to their satisfaction before thinking about others. So they didn't waste time in approving the 500 billion naira that the president had earmarked for most vulnerable Nigerians. But it was easy for them to immediately, of course, propose 70 billion naira for themselves as well. So to cushion effect of fuel subsidy is a better one, and of course to take care of the needs of new members is a better one. But to say it's for furnitures and buying of cars and repairing of offices, I think that amount of money is too much, if you ask me. That's my own opinion. Well, talking about this issue is a big one, and of course, if it continues like this, like Femi Falana, senior advocate of Nigeria, has said, it would call for it could call for more reactions from different people, or even more measures, and these are the issues that are ongoing. And of course, we'll still bring this to the table, and of course have resource persons comment on them. Let's get to argue on these issues and see truly if this is how it is supposed to be in a country that has so many things to look at. We have the educational sector, we have the security sector, and all of that to direct funds into, and of course not use them to buy utility vehicles, and of course bulletproof cars as well. Well, this is how far we can go on today's program. It's been a good time staying with you here on the Law of the People and Governance here on Spectrum Television. The program returns to your screen again tomorrow, and the next, and the next, and the next. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTv.ng, and also follow us on Twitter at SpectrumTonline. Meanwhile, the program comes up again during the week, like I said. My name is Rachel David White. Catch you again tomorrow. Good evening.